Hey yo, what's good? It's your boy Mixtape Moth, and today I'm gonna hit y'all with a review of the Scarface album entitled Mr. Scarface Is Back. Let's get to it. Alright, so Brad Jordan, aka Scarface, is a legendary rapper and producer coming out of the south side of Houston, Texas, specifically the section of South Acres. He is also 1/3 of the iconic rap trio, the Ghetto Boys. Now, the Ghetto Boys was responsible for putting the Dirty South on the map. No matter the era in hip hop, Scarface has always stayed deeply rooted and true to his authentic sound. He has a consistent and well-respected discography that few can rival. In my opinion, he's the true king of the South and a top 5 MC of all time. Now, today I wanted to touch upon his debut album, Mr. Scarface Is Back, from 1991. And I was inspired to do this after watching some of his interviews during the past week. One in particular was The Breakfast Club, in which Charlemagne the God incorrectly stated that The Diary was Scarface's first album. Perhaps he just wasn't thinking clearly in the moment and got mixed up. But I think it's pretty evident across the board that Scarface's debut isn't mentioned as often as some of his other albums, even though it's very impactful. This project came out several months after their critically acclaimed We Can't Be Stopped from 1991, which contained their landmark single Mind Playing Tricks on Me. Scarface at this time was considered to be the ghetto boy with the most star potential. Willie D had left the group at this time as well. Let's take a look at the cover art. As you can see, it's almost as infamous as their cover from We Can't Be Stopped. Here you see Bushwick, Scarface, and Willie D caught up in a coke deal that went bad. You see real guns and flour, which is supposed to represent cocaine. It definitely sets a mood right off the bat. This album contained 12 tracks and lasted approximately 46 minutes. There were no features, so I guess you could say Scarface was on his J. Cole shit all the way back in 91. So the bulk of the beats were handled by Scarface himself, along with a couple in-house Rap-A-Lot producers. This was before Mike Dean came into the mix. And also, this was really before Rap-A-Lot developed a distinct sound. Sure, there were primitive traces of it found at times, but the majority of these beats were the reflection of the East Coast and West Coast sounds in 91, which mostly consisted of up-tempo beats with densely layered instrumentals. I'm talking about the kind of production you would find on Public Enemy, Ice Cube, and Cool G rap projects at the time. But with that being said, let me go ahead and hit y'all with this track-by-track breakdown. The opener, Mr. Scarface, is one of his most well-known songs. This was part 2 to the Scarface song from the Ghetto Boys album, Grip It on That Other Level. You know, the one with his iconic lines, I started small time, dope game, cocaine, pushing rocks on the block, I'm never broke, man. This 1991 version also had a funky and upbeat instrumental. It was hard, aggressive, but still something that you could play in the club. There was also a snippet from the Scarface movie. The intro to this was also pretty legendary, as he uses the melody of Itsy Bitsy Spider to sing about shooting down crack fiends. You have a lot of great storytelling here, where he narrates from the perspective of a ruthless drug dealer who engages in very violent and hedonistic acts. There's talk of shootouts and coke sales. Jay Prince has to send in his Fifth Ward goons to the South Park to lend a hand. Even a woman ends up saving the day at the end. Yeah, it's a hard as nails opener and a classic Scarface song. Track 2, The Pimp, is easily my least favorite song on the album, although it has a great beat which samples from James Brown's Black Caesar soundtrack. The beat is slowed down to, give it that Mackish and pimpish feel. Lyric-wise, this has strictly sexual bars. It's basically an audio porn, so you're getting a Too Short mixed with Cool G rap, talk like sex vibe. So I rarely get into songs that are this sexually vulgar, to be honest, with the exception of his Fuck Faces song from 1998, which I don't consider to be as extra. I do understand the mood that he was trying to create here, and it's got a dope beat, but I wasn't really feeling his over-the-top X-rated lyrics. That's just me. On Born Killer, we get a frenetic beat that's very in your face. We have multiple samples from artists like Run DMC, James Brown, and the Commodores. Scarface really attacked the mic in a hungry and ferocious manner. while he takes the listener inside the mind of a madman who has been hardened by society. He raps, "I'm a heartless duke, I don't love me, how the fuck I'ma love you? That's right, you guessed it, I'm legally insane, mark manic depressive." The themes of mental health and trauma are things that he touches upon frequently on this album. Like on track 4, Murder by Reason of Insanity, where he commits senseless violence on top of a funky and soulful backdrop. Perhaps it was the result of all the violence that he witnessed coming up on the south side of Houston, combined with whatever mental health issues that he had going on that made him come across as so cold-blooded and detached. Right after is Your Ass Got Took. This is a raw and hardcore track with a rugged bass line. I believe this samples from the R&B groups War, Bloodstone, and Jackson 5. Here, Face displays more of that hardened, streetwise mentality. He gives the listener different examples of how people were caught lacking and got their asses took. Track 6, Diary of a Madman, is a major highlight from the project. It pretty much epitomizes the essence of introspective gangster rap. Scarface has stated that he considers this to be one of the deepest tracks that he's ever written, and you can tell that he was in a pretty low and dark place when he wrote this. The James Brown The Payback sample is minimalist but very effective. On this record, Scarface digs deep to address his feelings of loneliness and despair. He raps, "I want to die, but it ain't for me. I try to talk to my dad, but my old man ignores me. He says I'm delirious and I drink too much, so he doesn't take me serious. But little does he know, I'm really losing it. I got a head, but ain't no screws in it." I feel this record was ahead of its time in showing a gangster with emotional depth. The street lifestyle had taken quite a toll on his mental state. Following this is Body Snatchers. This was set to a slightly cheerful funk loop that was similar stylistically to the beat on Murder by Reason of Insanity. Here, Face raps about escaping from a court-ordered mental institution. He gets involved with a shootout, but his ghetto boys family help him blast his way out. So now he's on the run, looking to inflict more havoc as the body snatcher. The plot here is a little amusing and kind of over the top, but it's a pretty vivid story nonetheless. Next is his classic song, Money and the Power. This is one of the original down south hustling anthems, or in rap in general. It just symbolizes the essence of the come up. Here you can visualize the rise of a hustler from selling grams to keys. I guess it could also be looked at as one of the first trap anthems. My thing is that if you've ever done dirt before, you're probably going to relate to this one. Beat-wise, this is one of the few tracks that I feel has the beginning stages of that Rap-A-Lot sound. The Barry White sample is slowed down a little bit, and Face is rapping with a slower flow. The video to this was equally as dope, as it fits the storytelling perfectly. Yeah, this was like a mini movie, and I consider it to be a classic 5 Mic song. The subsequent track is Peter Roll'em. The beat samples from Southside Movement's I've Been Watching You, which has been heavily sampled before. 2 tracks with this sample that instantly come to mind are Jadakiss's Show Discipline and Cormega's American Beauty. This record finds Face sending ominous threats to out-of-towners, so if you get caught slipping or lacking in South Acres, then you will likely get Peter rolled, which means shot up. We then get some more stellar storytelling on Good Girl Gone Bad, but it's not about a girl, rather it's about a coke deal gone bad. On top of a jazz and funk layered beat, Face gives a detailed narration on how it all went down. He recalls his partner finding bricks for cheap. It seemed too good to be true, and it was. After Scarface and his partner peeped the setup, they had left the scene. However, they were followed on the freeway and a shootout ensued. Fortunately for Brad, Jay Prince and his hitters came to the rescue. The second to last track was his classic, A Minute to Pray, A Second to Die. This was another 5 Mic song and one of his best storytelling records. The title itself is pretty haunting and deep when you think about it. You only get a minute to pray and a second to die. It's as fatalistic and reality-based as his I Seen a Man Die single from '93. You could see how a song like this in '91 would evolve into a concept like I Seen a Man Die. Here, Face tells a tale of revenge that involves death and heartache, It is picture painting at its finest. This was a cautionary tale about the consequences of playing the streets. If you are involved in that life, it affects everyone around you, including family, who will be forced to live with the pain after you're gone. In addition to the compelling lyrics, we had a standout beat which sampled from 2 Marvin Gaye songs as well as some drums from a Bill Withers track. Then the album wraps up with I'm Dead. This finds Scarface rapping from the perspective of his ghost. He doesn't realize he is actually dead until the end of the song. This was set to a funky breakbeat with organs and horns. Face later indicated in an interview that he was inspired to make this song after hearing fellow Rap-A-Lot artist Gangsta Nip talk about I'm dead on a song. But regardless of the origins, Scarface was the first rapper to make an actual concept song about being dead. And we're able to see the influence that a record like this would have on Tupac and Biggie. Overall, I give this album a rating of a strong 4.5 mics. There are definitely some classic moments throughout in which Scarface does some pretty innovative things for the time. So I can see why some would give this a 5 mic rating. In my opinion, Scarface has a couple of 5 mic albums to his name, but I personally give this a rating of a strong 4.5, primarily because I feel the production hasn't aged the best. To offer some perspective, I feel A Tribe Called Quest, the Low End Theory from the same year, 1991, has aged better. Now, don't get it twisted. The beats are all solid, but I don't feel they reflect the timeless sonic quality found on albums like The Diary, The Fix, and even later Ghetto Boys releases. You have to remember, at this point in 1991, Rap-A-Lot was still in the process of developing their own sound, so the beats didn't really feel uniquely Southern or Houston. And that's my thing, because I love hearing Scarface over that signature Rap-A-Lot sound. Also, as groundbreaking as some of these songs were, Scarface wasn't even in his prime yet as an MC. However, a couple years later he would be. But on this album, he still managed to set a standard for what emotionally compelling gangster rap should sound like. He also laid out a blueprint for how to talk about the psychological effects of street life. I can understand that this album may sound a bit dated to those individuals who were too young in 1991, but I feel that if you're a true Scarface fan, you should definitely check this out, or you should at least be curious to hear how the King of the South has evolved over time. My favorite tracks include Mr. Scarface, Born Killer, Diary of a Madman, Money in the Power, Good Girl Gone Bad, A Minute to Pray, and A Second to Die, and I'm Dead. Let me know what you thought about this album in the comment section below. Do you have this as a 5 mic album? Let me know below. It's your boy Mixtape Moth. I'm signing out. But be sure to hit that like button and please subscribe. As always, it's peace and blessings. Scarface, Mr. Scarface is back. 1.